and going over, so we got there. We'll also be going over the things that are happening besides with the banks as well. We've got a lot of bank failures that are very public and very big in the last few days here. So we're going to talk about that, what that has to do with crypto and blockchain and the markets and what's happening there as well. So we're going to talk about that. And we will also then go to Isaac, your comments. I know there's a project you also want to share. And we have Azuka who's coming in now. He's also going to be sharing as well. And then we'll finish up with a little bit of Q&A, kind of panel discussion. Let everybody kind of talk about any questions that are on their mind about the things we've shared also. So we're going to go through and do all of that. Richard, I'm also going to put you as a co-host so you can let people in to the meeting. Okay, so as people are coming in, if you can just make sure they're able to come in, welcome them as well. All right, Azuka, welcome. Okay. All right, so I think we're doing good there. I'm going to give it a few more minutes for people to join. If you want to mention or put in the chat where you're joining us from, appreciate that also. And we'll just give it a couple more minutes for people to join in. I'm going to message a few others as well to let them know that we are starting. Good. Ghana, great. Yeah, very good. Currently traveling in the East Coast, US time zone. And let's see. Pull up a couple of the headlines here that we have as we're waiting for others to join us. So I'm sure everybody's aware of the big bank failures in the Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank. We'll pull up a few headlines here that we have. And we will start here. All right, let me share my screen. And Suka or Isaac, if you guys have slides, just let me know, and I'll let you just do screen sharing when you're up here. So, sure, most of you are aware of what's happening with the banks. We have Silvergate Bank, there is Signature Bank, and also Silicon Valley Bank. These are three banks that just had failures in the past few days. And what is interesting about these is that they're all tied to cryptocurrency. So I guess a few theories are possible here. Just very large coincidence that all of these banks are having trouble at the same time. We've got some other thoughts that have come out here recently. This is pretty interesting. Let's see if I can pull this up without playing the actual video. So I'm going to have to pause it. Give me a second. I'll play the video. All right. So the theory here was basically that the bank failures actually were targeted. So some people are saying now that, basically because these are crypto banks, that maybe there was some targeting involved. So there's a lot of question as to what exactly has been going on as far as these bank failures. From my perspective, it looks like basically a lot of the funding, so companies like Coinbase and Gemini, and in the past FTX use these banks to be able to do what's called a fiat gateway or fiat on-ramp and off-ramp, right? So the idea is that you've got to be able to get your money into the cryptocurrency exchanges. You got to be able to get your money out of the cryptocurrency exchanges. Okay, got it. And so if you got to get your money in and out of these cryptocurrency exchanges, you have a big issue with that if these banks are not available. Some of the banks, larger banks, do allow maybe individuals to do transactions, but they may not allow for larger cryptocurrency exchanges to do that. So it looks like whether by accident or whether intentional, depending on who you listen to, a lot of these bank failures were really tied to basically the on-ramps and off-ramps for cryptocurrency exchanges in the US particularly. Because both Silvergate, Signature Bank, and Silicon Valley Bank were all basically crypto friendly and supporting exchanges and potentially even increasing the their connection with being able to allow those on ramps and off ramps. So that is interesting what is happening. Not sure if anybody else has a comment or a thought or a question on the banks before I go on to some of the other topics we're going to cover. Let me see if I got a bigger grid of everybody here. Does anybody have any questions kind of about what is happening with these bank failures? Everybody familiar with the bank failures? Is this something news to people, or are many of you already aware of what is happening as far as that goes? Any questions, any thoughts? I don't know. Everybody's screen here.
Yeah, for me, it was more of a case of.
Hello, John.
So do you want to go ahead?
Go ahead, Isaac.
Hi, John. Hi, John.
Hi. Go ahead, Isaac.
Yeah, one of for me, it was just more of a case of why now. With all of these banks that have been functioning well, and I think Azuka posted a decent, interesting YouTube video in the group where it obviously outlines that yes, crypto is under attack, and we know it's been under attack for quite a while now. But it was just a case of why now? Why would they take these banks down now? And simultaneously as well. And I think there was a few smaller ones that didn't even make the headlines, leading up to the bigger ones being taken down. But it's just there's a lot of why, and just I'm still trying to understand and untie some of the antics that have happened around this, and what else is going to lead to. Are we going to start seeing this leading into some of the mainstream banks? Was this like a warning shot? So yeah, just that was my kind of viewpoint on it. But like I said, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, there definitely are. I think a lot of people have been kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop. We don't really know what that's going to be. But yeah, why now? That's a really interesting question as well. We do know, and we'll talk about more, that central bank digital currencies are getting ready to come online. So we have, obviously there's around the world, like in China, they already have their central bank digital currency. In Nigeria, there was an attempt to put it in place, but that didn't go very well. I don't think anybody actually used the Naira. So there are different central bank digital currencies being rolled out, and it is necessary, if they're going to roll those out, I guess, to in some ways eliminate competition. So maybe that has to do with it, right? Because if people can come in and they can use Circle's stable coin, they can use USDT, they can use other coins, then do they really need to use a central bank digital dollar? Maybe not, right? So there may be an aspect here of eliminating some of the competition, trying to get everything centralized into certain players. Zuka, looks like your audio is not on yet. So I think that could be, welcome Joe, welcome Wendy. I think that could be one of the aspects of what we're seeing here. Are there other thoughts or questions about what's happening with these banks? Let me see if I can switch back my screen over to those so I can actually see that. Hold on. Any other thoughts about what is happening currently as far as these bank failures? So there's not a lot we know. We do know bank stocks are down. Interestingly, Bitcoin is up significantly, I think around 20% over the last few days. So it could be that people see Bitcoin as an alternative, right? And they're going, okay, maybe the banks aren't so safe, I need to get over to Bitcoin. That's a possibility. I've heard other theories put around like that, well, the money's stuck in the markets already, so they just had to get it someplace safe, so get it to Bitcoin instead of another altcoin. I don't know if that's the case. I think you could probably add up, the whole market cap across the coins if you're a technical analyst, and figure out if the funds have moved into the market or if they moved just around from different coins. But Bitcoin is definitely up, well over 20%, I think, in the last few days. So that is significant. Azuka, if you do you have any thoughts? We're talking about the bank failures before we get into the other topics for the day. If you want to unmute, or is your audio working?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, can. Any thoughts on these bank failures?
Oh, I think the bank failures, I think, is something orchestrated to punish the people in crypto, And if you check it out, it's mainly the banks that are connected to crypto that are having these problems and all. And most of their assets are also invested in the government bond and all those or whatnot. So, and because of inflation, all those are going down, causing them to have issues with getting depositors to withdraw. So people can't withdraw because they don't have enough liquidity and they need to sell a bunch of assets, which is going to cause liquidity crisis. And is it one of the banks? Someone was supposed to try to buy the bank, but they won't let them put in an offer before the government took over the bank. So I think it's just something to punish crypto because they're planning on their CBDC and all that.
Yeah, that is an interesting point as well. There was, I think, a potential buyer to kind of bail out one of the banks and buy it and keep it going. And I think the government did not allow that buyer to buy. I think it was for Signature or one of the three banks. So they were stopped from being able to purchase. I guess they were not on the list that the government was going to allow to buy it. So they did not allow them, and they obviously could have bought the bank. They could have actually, I guess, saved that bank from going into its current situation. So that is a very good point as well. And any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to ask, for depositors who had their money in the banks like Signature or Silicon Valley, what will be their fate now? Because I thought I read something online that for issues like this, when it happens to a bank, that the bank usually insures like 5% of depositors' money, or depositors can only get like 5% of their money back. Is it actually they are getting their full money back? Because I still heard that the Feds are the government of US, they are doing something like reprinting notes for depositors to be able to get their money back. What is the fate of this?
Yeah, so there is what they call FDIC insurance in the US, and that insures, I think it's up to $250,000 in accounts for individual banks now. So that is something that is protecting, and I think it did come into place. I don't think any depositors have lost their money. It's really the banks themselves that have been taken down, the institutions, but the individual depositors have not lost their money. So the individual depositors have not lost their money because of what you said. There is that FDIC insurance, and that is actually protecting people, basically giving them their money or their deposits so they can still access it. And I think it's up to $250,000. So yeah, that is a good point. That's probably why you don't see more panic right now, because that is covering people's deposits. Does that answer what you were asking about?
Well, how can we? Yeah. But how can we explain the rise in Bitcoin? Is it that the shutdown of the banks are kind of prompting persons to, because some other persons are seeing it as that banks are failing and the only source of keeping their funds now seems to be crypto? Is this a wise thing to do at this point? Because it's happening not only in US, Nigeria too. We're also facing the same thing. Depositors are not allowed to withdraw their money and things like that.
So I think that there's a couple of possible explanations on Bitcoin. Now, these are not the only ones. One, I think it's possible that people are seeing, oh, look, the banks are failing. Bitcoin is an alternative. I better get some money into Bitcoin because maybe it's safer, right, than having my money in the bank right now, because people are probably scared that maybe the banks are going to go down because of these failures, right? So I think that's one possibility. Another possibility is that, people are like, uh-oh, all the markets are in trouble. Bitcoin is much safer than having my money in, Dogecoin, or having my money in, Shiba Inu, or having my money in one of the other altcoins. So let me move my crypto into Bitcoin instead of moving it into one of those altcoins. Now, I think it's more likely, in my opinion, that money flowed into Bitcoin from outside of the market. That's what I think happened. But if there's anybody else has theories, as Isaac, so anyone else, if you guys have thoughts on why that Bitcoin price has gone up, definitely interested to hear that.
So aside the people running to push up their funds into Bitcoin because they know a lot of economies are going down, also it goes with the stablecoin also depegging. During when the stablecoin started depegging the USDC, people also moved their funds, because if you check when USDC depeg, DAI also followed, because DAI is supposed to be a decentralized stablecoin, but they have a bunch of their assets in USDC as well. So lots of funds moved from those stablecoin into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So people are just moving because they know, oh, okay, stablecoin can go to zero, but Bitcoin can go down, and in the long run they could get their money back. So it's safer in the long run. So that's why it's pumping so fast in the past few days.
Yeah, I think I go with Jace as well. I think people use Bitcoin as a hedge for when we were seeing the depegging, but even the USDT dominance, it seems to be dropping now as well, as more people are going into Bitcoin. So that's something to keep an eye on.
A good point on the stable coins, that it is very possible that people seeing the stable coins depegging move to Bitcoin for safety. I think if that's what you're saying, that they moved it out of the stable coins because people didn't know what was going to happen. At this point, the stable coins have actually come back to peg, I think. I think that they're all back to peg. But,
yes, it did come back. And because of that, if you also see from Binance, they are moving their $1 billion emergency funds into Bitcoin, and it just said the CEO that they're moving from stablecoin into Bitcoin. So that's also, they know that is an hedge, so that's why they're doing that.
Yeah, so I think that that's definitely a good part of the explanation, I'm sure, is that stable coins. We really didn't talk about that. Stable coins, and some of the biggest ones, USDC, DAI, those actually dropped from their peg to, I think, like 93 cents, maybe 90 cents, which is actually very big, because these are not kind of like, you know, stable coin number 532. These are like top 10 coins, right? So these are, you know, main things in the market. And when you see those drop, people get very concerned. And a lot of that's because they were connected to these banks, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Silvergate. And that's why they moved, and they were able to thankfully get everything back to peg. But that's all part of it. It's all connected. So that was definitely a part of it as well. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions about the bank failures here before we go on and look at some of the other topics after FTX? I know this is the biggest one that people are looking at. It looks like markets have stabilized, and I'm glad to see that personally. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. It looks like banks have, you know, the markets have stabilized for the most part. Bank stocks are down, we know that. But other than that, it looks like, you know, not as scary as it looked over the weekend. A lot of people thought that we were going to be, you know, there was going to be some serious panic. And it doesn't seem like that's so much the case right now. Any other questions or thoughts about what's happening with these bank failures before we go on to some other topics? All right, there you go. There's our Janet Yellen. And she's, I guess, saying you can trust us. So we'll leave this topic at that. And let's go on to some of the other things that are happening right now in the marketplace. Some of the other things that I wanted to cover in the crypto after FTX, and then Isaac will go to you, and then Azuka will go over to you, and you guys can kind of share your thoughts and topics you want to talk about as well. One of the ones that I wanted to talk about was basically what's happened after FTX, right? So everybody's familiar with what happened to FTX. FTX basically crashed. Spectacular failure. Was that planned? Was that not planned? I think that for a lot of us, depending on how you view the markets now, good chance that maybe, you know, maybe there was some, you know, some machinations, some planning that went into what happened with FTX. But either way, we've got ourselves a few things that are happening now. A lot of political connections FTX had. So, you know, a lot of people are kind of running for the shadows now because, you know, they were connected to FTX in one way or another, including our SEC regulator, actually. Why is the guy's name escaping me? Anyway, our SEC, Gary Gensler, he actually, I think, had like some family connection to FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. So that doesn't look too good, right? The guy who's regulating everything actually had a kind of a family connection to the, you know, to the FTX as it went down. And of course, they seem to be kind of a bridge between the traditional finance world and the crypto world, until obviously everything went down pretty spectacularly. So FTX has really changed things. Now what's happening is we're seeing regulation come in, right? So regulators are riding in and they're saying, let me see if I have any of those headlines here. Give me a minute. I want to just pull those up. I'm going to kind of go on a headline basis today. So let me see if I can find that for you guys. Basically, regulators are kind of riding in and they're saying, oh, look, you know, we need to protect you from things like FTX. We need to, you know, protect you from more failures coming up. We don't want to see this happening again. So we're going to bring in, you know, some heavy regulation. We need to make sure that this never happens again. Now, are they doing that because they want to protect consumers? They want to protect regular people? That's a good question. I'm curious in the chat, or you can even just speak up. Do you think that the main intention of the regulation that's coming out, and not only in the US, but around the world as well, do you think the main intention of that regulation is that there's trying to protect the regular people and consumers? Or do you think there might be some other reason behind the regulation that is, you know, everybody's focused on right now? Any thoughts around that? All right, any thoughts? Yeah. So any thoughts about
me personally, I think there is an element that they do want to protect us, and they have a duty to protect the consumers as well, retail. But as we know, there always seems to be some sort of caveat with their protections and their rules and legislations that they bring in. You can just look at, basic thing that everyone always brings up is that we're allowed to gamble away our money, but we're not capable of investing our money into crypto unless we jump over hoops and meet their stringent rules and regulations. And we know crypto has obviously allowed us to get into an industry where we can make infinite wealth without having to go through all of the hoops that they normally would have to put us through, or get into the market before it's too late. So once they've made their gains from it and we get the scraps. So personally, yes, there is an element that they have a duty to protect, but I don't think this is in their interest to protect us. It's a case of they're seeing too much money leaving the traditional market, and they need to find a way to try and buffer that and circle it back around so they're in control.
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts about you know, kind of the motivation behind all of the new round of very heavy round of regulations that we're seeing, not only in America, but we're seeing it all around the world at this point? Other thoughts about that? So yeah, I agree. There's definitely probably a motivation to keep money in the system, to keep control of that. There is, you know, some aspect of protecting, but like you say, nobody stops people from going to a casino. Nobody stops people from buying lottery tickets. So, you know, is that the main reason? Not sure.
I think the idea of them trying to say, oh, they're regulating, it all goes back to keeping their own system running, because they try to put all the strengths before you get to go into crypto, you need to pass through all these folks and all. But it all pertains to them trying to keep their economy, because they know the more people go into crypto, the more their currencies lose value, and the more people get to see the benefit of getting decentralization or owning their tokens that are decentralized from the government, they would no longer be relevant. So people can trade peer-to-peer and not even need banks or go through all those KYCs and all. So they want to try and push as many people out, tries as many people out of the system to keep it as minimum as possible. So to also keep boosting their own economy and just keeping them in power. It's all about power and control. They just want to keep controlling things. That's why.
Yeah, it seems like that's a big part. And I mean, if you look at some of the things that have been happening in the Caribbean, happening in Latin America, even in Africa, where you've got like Mia Mottley, who's one of the prime ministers in the Caribbean. You have Central African Republic, which has moved to a Bitcoin. now basically allowing it to be currency in the country, along with El Salvador in Latin America. And you're seeing a lot of things along those lines. It seems like there is definitely a battle for control, right, around what's happening. And of course, we have this whole kind of tension between the US, the West, and the BRICS being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? So there's a big control over the currency, over control over the financial system, which has mainly been the US over the past, whatever it is, 50 plus years. So now we do have some of that tension that is coming, right? That is coming in between. And we are probably seeing that now. Crypto, that's really kind of open. It's new. You can see here, the Coinbase CEO demands a clear rule book for crypto, right? So basically saying, look, I want the, I want people to come, which I think he should have done a long time ago, but good for him doing it now. I want people to come out and make sure that there's good rules and legislation for crypto and the industry. And that's something that's really going to be important because it happens in America. It's going to affect a lot of the rules around the world. Although honestly, a lot of other places in the world already have better rules than the US. I mean, Singapore already has their rules in place. Japan already has fairly clear rules in place. The EU, not necessarily the most positive rules, but they have a lot of rules in place. So America is actually lagging, I think, in terms of setting regulation that's clear. The main regulation that we have in the US at this point would basically be regulation by enforcement action or by basically suing companies. So we see the SEC taking a lot of legal actions, but we don't see a lot of clear, okay, here's the 3 rules you have to follow if you want to have a crypto exchange. Here's the 5 things you need to do if you want to issue a coin. We don't get that. We really just get the SEC just sued Kim Kardashian. The SEC just went after Tom Brady, who's an NFL quarterback. And the NFL went after this one. So we're seeing a lot of those kind of actions. What we're not seeing is a lot of clear rulemaking, right? Which would be what you would do if you wanted to foster the crypto industry and make sure that things went well there. Okay, so the regulation is a really big one as to what is happening right now. And we also hinted at another thing after FTX, which is central bank digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies, we got a big push for these around the world right now. Most governments have announced that they either have one coming, they're working on one, they're thinking about one. We had one that came out in Nigeria that didn't do very well. I don't know, Femi or Zuka, anybody want to give a perspective on the e-Naira? Anybody have any thoughts on that one?
I think they said the e-Naira is a failed project and they are sending it back. Is it? I've forgotten the country they gave the contract to programming, so they're sending it back for them to try to probably design or something. Or it hasn't worked, and a lot of Nigerians don't even want to use it because they also know it's also a method of controlling them and all. So they're not interested in using the e-Naira. They just want their cash and the regular way of transfer.
Is that connected to, I think there's a lot of like a lack of currency notes right now, limitations on that. Is that connected?
Okay, the lack of currency note is they did a redesign of the old Naira, the 1,000 Naira notes, the 500 and the 200 Naira. So they want to phase out the old currency out of the system and usually bring the funds. But then they took about 1 trillion worth of old Naira notes and then print out, brought out less than a few billions into the economy. Like, how is that even possible? People want to withdraw the money. They don't have enough to withdraw. So they're saying the fact that they printed or released so little amount of new currencies to curb the vote buying because it's the election period, which hasn't worked because people were buying votes using a $100 bill. So everybody's angry because now they're using their money to buy money. You want to take out 10,000 Naira, you go to a POS operator, you're paying 30% to get out money from your account, which is absorbed, and that's causing a problem everywhere. And probably just come down now because they said now they could use the old Naira from now till the end of December.
Interesting. So we're seeing a lot of these CBDC type projects rolling out around the world. The bottom line is, though, most people like it in Nigeria don't really want to use them, right? So if people don't want to use the project, the only way to get people to use it is to force people to use the project, right? So I mean, obviously China has their EU yuan. They force people. They're like, you must use it, right? This is what you have to do. And so obviously people use it. But as we can see in Nigeria, given the choice, people don't really seem to be very interested in taking up these CBDCs, which I think is probably smart, seeing that as we said, it's a form of control, right? If you're able to control people's money, you basically control the people. So CBDCs are rolling out at the same time that we're seeing all of this happening after FTX and now these bank collapses. So a lot of connection probably tied into that. Any other thoughts around those CBDCs? Any more kind of questions or perspectives people have about what's happening with those right now? Obviously, the US has been talking about one, but there's nothing rolled out, and it's unlikely, certainly this year or maybe in the next few years, that we're going to see one. Although I think these bank failures are probably connected, to the government trying to roll out a central bank digital currency. All right. And then also one of the other things that's happened as a result of FTX is that it's really pushed innovation in the cryptocurrency space. It's pushed it outside of the US, which it already has been, but it's pushing it further outside of the US, right? Because if you don't have any rules, I think of the way that the US regulations take place now. FTX is actually based in Bahamas, so they were outside of the US, even though they operate in the US, right? So what we're seeing is that, we got a comment here, Joe says, is a recent event with Silvergate Bank, or Silicon Valley Bank, the beginning of disruption for the financial system, akin to disruption of the traditional news networks when platforms such as YouTube came for decentralization, where one can acquire news from individuals, business outside of legacy infrastructures. So Joe, good question. I think that it looks like these were targeted, right? So these were targeted apparently at banks that were crypto friendly, that have provided on-ramps and off-ramps for cryptocurrency. A lot of people like to talk about what's the word they always use? Contagion, right? Contagion. Oh, is there going to be more contagion? I don't know that we're going to see that. It seems so targeted. This wasn't like a big bomb. This is like a laser scalpel, right? That just hit a very few. And I mean, you never know in the financial system how it's going to play out because everything is so connected. However, it doesn't feel like what we had, let's say 2007, 2008, the global financial crisis, right? Where big banks like Lehman were failing. This one doesn't seem to be like that. This one seems to be, it was very targeted. Now, nobody ever really knows how it's really going to play out, but it seems to me that this is less likely to have those kinds of outcomes. Now, the one you said about decentralization, where one acquires news from individuals, I think that's already happening, Joe, and I think that's a matter of trust, right? I don't think that people really are trusting financial institutions as much, are not trusting government as much. And so there's a vote with your feet kind of idea that people are like, well, let me go, that's probably why Bitcoin price could be up, right? People are going where, they feel like, okay, I can maybe trust this a little more. I think I have a better chance of holding on to my money if I do this. So I think that some of these moves that are being made by, regulators, by governments right now are actually having the reverse effect. They're actually pushing people away further into decentralized options, right? Decentralized finance, into cryptocurrency, into Bitcoin. And I think that that's happening almost the opposite of what these regulators and governments want, which is obviously they want everybody to come into a central bank digital currency. And yet people are kind of saying, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to, whatever you're pushing right now, I don't think I want it, right? Like if we look at Nigeria. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Joe, but it's very hard to know how this plays out. I remember the 2007, 2008 financial crisis, and we had George W. Bush, who was the president at that time, and he came out famously on the White House steps in America, and he said everything was falling apart. The whole financial system was going crazy. And he said, as it turns out, all these things are interconnected. And everybody was like, what? You didn't know that before, right? So everything is interconnected. We don't know what's going to be the next thing that happens because you can't know. Maybe they use like a laser scalpel to get rid of Silicon Valley Bank, but who knows what that's going to make happen, right? Are we going to see more banks coming up in Caribbean and Bermuda? Maybe, I don't know. Are we going to see more activity in Asia? Yeah. Hong Kong is already moving forward with their DeFi plans, right? They're moving forward and regulating it, moving it forward. Singapore's been doing that for a while. So we don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. It's a good question, right? I don't have a crystal ball. It's hard for us to know. I don't even think they know, right? Exactly how this is going to play out. But going back to the point, it's definitely pushing innovation offshore from the US. Where like in the previous round, like the dot-coms, 2000, almost all that activity was in the US, right? Now, I would say equal or more activity is happening outside. Look at Dubai, look at Singapore, look at Hong Kong, look at so many places around the world that are, involved. They're doing their own blockchain, they're doing their own, currency type projects, they're doing their own projects around that. And, it's not necessarily so much America. So this is one of the outcomes from FTX here is we're definitely seeing a push offshore from the United States to other regions around the world, which is probably bad news for the US, or at least for people living in the US, maybe better news for people around the world, because maybe that brings some opportunities to other places where you didn't see it before, right? So I think that's a definite outcome that we're seeing right now. And then the other one I wanted to touch on is significant moves in crypto connected to the banking space. We talked about consolidation, right? So like in the UK, I think, Zuka, maybe you saw this one, HSBC bought the subsidiary over there, one of these banks, for £1. Was that what happened?
It was $1.
$1. Okay.
It seems unreal, but they say it's £1. I'm like, how do you buy a bank for £1? Like, that is crazy. Probably they bought it for £1 because they're gonna help cover their liquidity crisis or something. So that would be the reason.
So we see consolidation. We're seeing HSBC, the bigger banks that are basically either the federal, the governments, or the bigger banks taking over in the industry. And I would assume, though again, I don't know all of this, that there's probably a design behind that, right? To maybe get a smaller group of banks that basically would have some more control in the space. All right, so we're seeing a lot of interesting activity. What I'm going to do now is, unless there's questions about this, I'm going to hand it over, Isaac, for you to maybe present the part that you were going to do here, talk about a little bit your perspectives, as also the project that you wanted to talk about. So let me allow screen sharing. I'm going to stop my sharing. Give me a second here. And then stop sharing. Okay, so let's get it so that you can share. Do you have any slides or anything you want to share on screen there, Isaac?
No, but I can show a couple websites. And one of the areas that I wanted to really just go over was security. Because as you know, there's the scams and the rug pulls and everything else are getting a little bit more complicated and a little bit more explicit. So it was more of a reminder to everyone just to make sure if they are transacting online through their MetaMask tokens, DeFi projects and stuff like that, just remember, if you have gone onto a site, just to how to navigate to make sure you haven't clicked and given permission to a token or a coin or a project for access to your wallet. And there's little tricks that you can do to just make sure you can stay on top of that. And one of them is just to revoke the permissions, and that can be done. There's two websites that I'm familiar with. One of them is RugDoc, but RugDoc is used for a whole raft of different things in the crypto space, education. I like to keep up to with any of the security alerts that happen on chain. But one of the cool resources they have is that you can go to their tools to revoke permissions. What I'll do is I'll post, because I'm not going to connect my wallet to it, I'll post a short YouTube video which just explains how you can utilize this. And it's basically just connecting your wallet, and it will give you a list of all of the protocols that you're connected to. You've given permission access to navigate on your MetaMask. So if there's anything on there that you see that looks a little bit out of the ordinary, you can go in and just literally revoke the permission. And what people have to remember, there's a big difference between revoking the permission of a crypto project that you've given access to your wallet to disconnecting. You can disconnect on your MetaMask, but it doesn't revoke the permission. They still have access. So you may occasionally hear people say they've lost money, they don't know how, they've disconnected from the website, or they've clicked on a link. Unless you actually go in and revoke the permission, you're still going to be giving them access. And another site, if I can get to it one moment. Right, and how do I do this? Sorry, 1 second, guys. I can't get to the website. Oh, there we go. App. And this site does exactly the same thing as what you can do on RugDocs one, but this one specifically is for just for
I think probably this one is for Binance chain only, or yeah, this RugDoc you can also do the same to connect your wallet, and you can revoke all the connection you actually connected, and it saves you. I don't know if he's still there or what. So the link is in the comment. So if you get the link, both links from the comment, and probably bookmark it or something. I remember last week I was trying to stake a token, and I gave permission to stake just a certain amount of tokens, and then I wanted to stake more, but it wouldn't allow me. It wouldn't allow me because of the amount I've already given permission to, and I tried and tried and tried, spoke with the project administrator and support. They still didn't know what the problem was until I had to find out the site, and I had to revoke the permission and try again, and then it worked. So with this, you can actually save yourself a lot of stress to help make your transaction go easy and fast. I'll just wait for Isaac to come back, and we go this kind of thing.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
John, are you there?
I'm here. Isaac, are you there?
On Zoom.
It looks like did his connection drop?
Yeah.
His connection may have dropped. Well, I think we'll wait for him to come back in then. I think he might be in Rwanda. I'm not sure if the connectivity is a little off right now. Okay, let me go ahead and while we're waiting for him to come back, so good. Did you want to pick up and introduce yourself and start talking about some of what you wanted to share today?
Okay. So I'm Azuka, and I'm in the UK, Cambridge, and I work with a couple of projects. Well, let me talk about this website called Morales Money, and what you can do. It's just basically to help you analyze the DeFi market and see transactions that are going on chain. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I'm sure some people would already know Morales.io, and they're one of the developers trying to help improve the blockchain space and all. So it's this tool they just created and how you can use it. So you can use it to actually easily know tokens that are scams or rug pulls, because it has a lot of metrics that you could use to analyze different tokens. Say, I was looking for a coin that I could easily sort by days, how many days ago the coin was launched, and how people are buying it, and what kind of wallets are buying it, how much liquidity are there, how much holders, and you can also know if experienced buyer like this. It says experienced buyer. Experienced buyer are people who have long history, long wallet history, say 4 years, 5 years, and they've always been in profit. So with this, you could easily know and easily find profitable trades, and that's for people who venture into DeFi a lot of times. So it has a lot of what do you call it? It has a lot of filters that you use, multiple ones at the same time to easily check their smart contracts so as you don't get into rock pool projects or scam projects. Yeah, so I wanted to share these, and then I wanted to also just give a heads up to the project we're currently working on is a blockchain game, and it's called spacecatch.io, and it's a RPG and augmentative reality. So this game we've been quietly building it for some time now, and it will be launched probably in a few months, 1 or 2. What it's all about is all about aliens and space. So it's also it's a what they call it, a play to earn and free to play game, unlike the other one, what they call it, that was built on the lunar crash, where you have to buy the tokens, a lot of tokens, to be able to play the game. But this one, you can play for free, and you can also play it using the tokens, and you can easily earn NFTs and trade those NFTs as well. So it's called Space Catch, and let's see, the team has been let's see. So the teams are they are from all over the world, and they've been we've KYC'd, and how they call it, we've used a KYC system to verify everybody on the team, and what they're building is something very exceptional, and it helps people who want to also do workouts a lot. If you're a gym body and likes going to the gym, you can easily use this game to do your workout and earn tokens and NFTs as you go. But I don't know if I'm still coming on. Hello, am I still audible?
Yes, you are. Are you? Is it so? It's a token. Is it a metaverse? Is it a token-based game? How does this one work?
Yeah, it's a metaverse game. So it's also an augmentative reality, because it's not really out. The demo will be out in a few months. We're still working on it, but 1 second. I don't know why I cannot see it. Okay, so how it's been played, when you get into the space, it has like a space station whereby you hunt aliens, and each aliens you hunt, you could bring them back to the space station to earn a reward in NFTs, and those NFTs can be swapped or can be used to create your own weapons or forge your own NFTs, and in turn you could the NFTs are limited in supply to make it rare and difficult for people to own, and it can be ported out of the game to be sold in the NFT marketplace like Rarible and OpenSea. But unlike other games where their tokens are not they have a never-ending tokenomics, but the tokenomics for this is just 100 million tokens, which is not, there's no inflation. Instead, it has a deflationary kind of token, because you have token bonds and all that. But the token is not for sale yet. The game would have to be released and launched before they do any pre-sale. They're not selling pre-sale, they're not raising funds to build the game. So because we're trying to change the way projects are built, where the response before they build the project, but we are finishing the development before making anything sales and all that. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say, but I just wanted to show people about this Moralis.io to help them safeguard and easily know how to save funds and know what the market movement is in the DeFi space. It works only for DeFi tokens that are bought and sold on chain. Yeah, that's all I have for now.
So when it says Azuka true market alpha, I mean that's versus what? If I looked on like CoinGecko or something, what's the difference? What I would see here?
So with CoinGecko, you go there to see the price of different tokens, right? With this software, you know how many people are buying. Let's say you can check for the last 5 days, how much has the token holders increased, right? So you easily know in the last 10 days, how much liquidity has gone into the project or how much long-term holders are buying. So it has different, like the coin age, the liquidity, the token holders, people that are buying, experienced buyer, like I said, people who are long-term holders. So when you're selecting any of them, you can select how many days you want, time frame, weeks, months, but it has a free plan. If you keep collecting your bin, you could get the free plan, you could get a pro plan, but for now it's free. They're going to make it a paid plan very soon because I don't know why they want to make it a paid plan, but yeah. But it helps in terms of knowing what the market movement is like in the DeFi and knowing where the big money is going to. So, and there are also some tutorials on how to use it on their YouTube as well. So you can check it. And they also do daily crypto shows every morning, live shows on the platform, just to keep you updated on what's happening in the system.
Okay, very good. Any questions about some of the projects that Azuka has been sharing there? And we usually let people come into the Wakanda meetup, the live meetups, and the group, Telegram group, chat group, just share about projects they're working on. You should all feel free to do that. Any legitimate projects, we're happy to highlight them. Does anybody have any questions about the projects as Azuka shared? Interesting to see the metaverse and augmented reality game there. I'm interested to see when you guys have the I guess the demo or the preview of it. That'd be good to share with everybody. Any questions, anything else anybody wants to ask about those? Hopefully, see if we got Isaac back. Isaac, are you back? Thema, Isaac.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, there he is. Okay, Azuka, anything else that you wanted to share before we go back over to Isaac?
Now, for now, no, unless they have any questions, and I could.
Okay, well, if no questions, Isaac, we'll turn it back over to you. And I think you might want to also do a little intro. I don't know if you did an intro of you as well, just so people know what you're working on and your background. And we'll also have a time for Q&A at the end if anybody's missed any questions, so don't worry about that. Isaac, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'm having a few technical issues here. So my name's Isaac Alabi. I am originally from the UK, but I've been doing quite a few projects in Africa over the last 2-3 years, mainly in East Africa. Started off doing some work in Tanzania, branched off to doing some work in Rwanda, and not so long ago I was also doing a little bit of work in Gambia. All around the same sort of thing, and agriculture, repatriation, and just getting fellow Africans or people of the melanated people back home to invest, do good, build up, and yeah, just work together really. So yeah, I've been in touch with John for quite a couple of years now, following what he's been doing, passionate about the same sort of thing, and you're just always making sure I'm touching base to see what's going on in the community. So I'm just always sharing my insight in crypto and the blockchain, as we all like-minded people, constantly following it. And we know Africa is the pioneer for a lot of the work that's happening in the crypto space. So trying to make sure I'm staying in touch with what's happening on the ground there, and also connecting with what's happening outside of the continent. So as I was saying earlier on before I got disconnected, was just on the sides of security. I'm very passionate about the security side of things. I've fallen victim to a few scams, a few rug pulls, and even some that I never would have thought. Who would have thought FTX? I don't know if you can call it a scam, but well, that's down to personal opinion. But who thought that would have happened to FTX, one of the high-profile exchanges, very public, would do what they've done, and I'm sure more will come out of it. My thing is to always follow the money, even the stuff that we talked about earlier on with the Silicon Valley banks. Follow the money. Why was money being moved out before the bank went down? So there's always something before. There's always a bit of smoke before the fire. So yeah, so main thing for me, just making sure you stay protected online, using hardware wallets. I share a lot of that information in the group, and making sure you know how to revoke permissions that if you're transacting and doing tokens and jumping on different protocols and projects. I'll also share those links in the chat, and I'll share them in the group as well, if you haven't joined the group. So one of the projects I'm currently working on, and just with this disclaimer, is a company that I've partnered with and I'm also invested in, is a company called Harmony Village. We're doing some amazing work in Rwanda, and one of the things for us, and I think most of people can appreciate, is that we put a lot of money into these Western institutes and don't necessarily get the sort of return that we expect. And we're trying to close that wealth gap by investing into businesses and partnering with businesses that can offer really good returns, sustainable returns. And we will also be looking to see how we can bring that into the blockchain as well. I've had discussions with John and a few other people as well. So something to keep an eye on. But yeah, at the moment, we're doing a lot of work in the agriculture field, where we've partnered with a few companies in Rwanda that are farming, and we've helped them to scale up. A lot of these businesses have really got a value chain, a business chain already. They're really exporting abroad. So it's just a case we've come on board, helped them streamline their processes, and heavily invested into them and helped them to start seeing the real potential of what they can do. I'll go if I can screen share. Have I still got permission, John, to screen share?
You should be able to go ahead and screen share.
Yeah. Just go to our website 1 moment. So yeah, so I'm part of the Harmony Village team, and like I said, we are helping to bring in the green revolution into Rwanda, and by doing that, we are also giving people who partner with us the opportunity to receive the sort of returns that we can make from agriculture. And as we know, agriculture is going to be something that's going to revolutionize the whole of Africa. But I know people are going to have questions in regards to this, so I can take questions later on, but we've got a conference at the end of this month where you can find out more detail in regards to what we're doing on the ground, companies that we've partnered with, what sort of innovative ideas we've taken to help change the landscape in Rwanda. We've got a lot of social projects happening as well, in schools and in different sectors. And we've recently just closed off our competition, which ended yesterday. And that was for people who wanted to apply for funding up to 50,000 US to help them bring either their idea or to help scale up their business as well. So that was one of the competition that we're running. And the company was started by two brothers from America, two African-American brothers, Christopher and David Franklin. They've been in business together, they're blood brothers, and they have been doing amazing work in Rwanda, helping the people. And even on the continent itself, for me, it's very refreshing to be part of a very strong team, and we're looking to grow and continue to do good work. So if anyone's got any questions on that or any other things as well. John, I don't know if you want me to mention. Sorry, yeah.
I guess in terms of kind of your connection with, you know, the ability for payments, blockchain, et cetera, how does that work for your team for Harmony Village? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so what we're still in a lot of discussion in how we're going to bring that into the blockchain. There's a lot more technicals that's involved, and one of the key things that we'll be looking at is to try and streamline how payments are even made initially. So we're trying to streamline the payment processes that we currently have in place, and then we have got a roadmap to see how we can bring the blockchain in. Blockchain in Rwanda is something that hasn't necessarily been legislated. They are in talks on how that is going to look in Rwanda itself. At the moment, you can only do blockchain transactions through healthcare sector and through land transactions. So the sector is still quite limited, it's still very new. But they are very keen on bringing that into fruition. So, and for us, we're just keeping a very close eye while we're working the mechanics in the background to try and see how we can roll it out without too many issues and bring it out to a wider audience.
Great, very good. Any other questions people have about the Harmony Village project? Isaac working on this based in Rwanda. So those of you guys don't know Rwanda, it's often called the Singapore of Africa. It's very leading in its technology, very stable kind of environment. A lot of people like to go to Rwanda. So if people have questions about the project that Isaac is working on over there. And how are you looking, by the way, Isaac, for people to connect with you on this? What kinds of ways would you be looking for people to connect or support what you're doing?
Yeah, you can drop me an email. I'll put my contact details into the chat. You can either join us on our next conference if you want to find out more specific information. If you've even got ideas as well that you want to share, you can also reach me via email as well, isaac.alabi@harmonyvillage100.com. I'll put my phone number and my email in the chat in a moment. And if you've got anyone that you think might have an amazing business in there as well, in Rwanda, direct them to the webpage, tell them to apply for some funding, fill in the details of what they've got to offer, because we're trying to grow this to help not just the people in Rwanda, the diaspora as well, to benefit from this as well. So, and like I said, there's ideas, suggestions, connections. We're open to all sorts. So, like I said, this is a very long-term project that we'll be running. So, any feedback, suggestions, opinions, and connections and networking opportunities are all welcome.
Okay, very good. Anything else you wanted to share today, Isaac?
No, I was going to share the. I think I've gone over if there was any questions in regards to how to revoke permissions online and or even how to locate. I'm not sure if people know how to also check transactions on a blockchain. I wanted to just quickly show people a block scan if they're familiar with.
If you can show people that, I think that'd be really informative, and just giving the importance again of revoking permissions. I guess there's a lot of hacks happening on wallets, MetaMask, other ones. So this is a way to protect yourself, right?
Yes. So block scan is also a way to, because I haven't actually got, I should actually get let me get an address actually, just search so so one of the things you can do is to also check the history of a transaction, where it's come from, where it's going. If you're not too sure, I'm just trying to find an address. If someone's got an address, you can just pop it in the chat and I'll pull it out. But let me see if I can find a. Sorry, 1 second. Then I'll be able to show you a better example.
And this is really important because there's a lot of hacks that are taking place. A lot of people are going after crypto in people's wallets. So this is something you really want to be aware of so you can protect your digital assets.
Thanks, Jace. Oops. Right, so the good thing about BlockScan, and there's a few other websites that do similar thing as well, is that you don't necessarily have to know the network that the address comes from. You can just type it in and they'll give you the different chains that it relates to. And what you can do is then use that to drill down into the token to find out where the transactions come from, if there's any notes or messages on there, or if there's any issues that have happened with it. So it gives you an idea. You can really use this information to drill down and get a better understanding as to what's happened. And one of the good things is that where you get these reports that come out to tell you about, oh, there's this illicit transactions that have happened, is that everything on a blockchain is available for everyone to see. It's an open ledger for you to navigate on, check the history, check where it's going. If you've even sent a transaction to a wrong address, you can see that. You might not be able to get it back, but you can actually trace the history of where a transaction's come from and where it's going. Like, for example, we just go to any one of these ones here. Tell you days, time, where it came from. So this was, so we see this address starts with 0xD3. It came originally from 0xe. We can click onto this transaction and go into the history of that transaction as well and see where that one started from. There's options that also go into notes. So I'm just flying through this a moment. What I've seen in the past sometimes is where there has been an address that has done unethical things with it, people usually go onto the address and leave comments and notes to say, do not interact with this address because it's known for scamming or moving funds or doing whatever that might be more harmful to yourself. So you can also, if you're not sure, even if someone sent you a payment, you're not sure of it, you can go into BlockScan, type in that address and check the history of where it's come from before deciding to send funds onto that address as well. Jace, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add on to that as well, because I know you're very up to speed with the whole BlockScan transaction address.
Okay, so with the BlockScan, you could literally check anything from the start date of the wallet, like the first time the wallet was activated and got funds into it. You would easily know where the funds came from. If it came from, say, a centralized exchange, it would say, oh, this payment came from, say, Binance Wallet 5, Hot Wallet 5, or Coinbase Wallet. And if it's going to decentralized wallets, that wouldn't say, but it will just tell you the wallet it's going to. And you could see the history of all the transactions. You could also see the amount that is in there. And like he said, you could leave a comment and check if they left comments over there, but it's rare, very rare for people to leave comments. I haven't really seen any wallet that they've left comment on. But yeah, checking out wallets before making any transaction is really important. Then you would know if the wallet is active. Like people who scam, you'd see that their wallet is not so active. Probably you scam one person 1 month ago, and then you're the next person, and you can easily tell that this wallet is not so active. Why should I want to interact with it? So it's very easy. Everything on the blockchain is open. You can see it. And you can easily tell if there's any shady thing going on in there. If it's a bot, if it's a wallet that is being used by bots, you see that they have multiple transactions in less than a few minutes because they try to front run on people who are trying to trade. So, and with the Morales money, like I said, you could also put in wallets in there and also see the transactions and what they're buying as well.
Cool,
Yeah,
thanks. One other thing I was going to add as well, when revoking, I forgot to mention, if you are going to be revoking any permission for a transaction for your MetaMask, there is going to be a small gas fee as well. So just to make sure that you've got enough of the token that you need to revoke the transaction from. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well.
Oh yeah, revoking, you have to pay in any of the blockchain. If you're revoking in Ethereum, you need to have Ethereum to pay for the transaction fee. If it's on Binance Smart Chain or Polygon or whatsoever, you have to pay using the transaction network token.
I think one of the points that you made, that everything is visible, Azuka, that's really important, basically for Africa, for, you know, diaspora, just having the transparency that, you know, you can actually see where transactions were, where they went, what the wallet has been doing. It removes a lot of the possibility of, you know, fraud, corruption, et cetera, which is a really good feature of the blockchain. Just being able to see that and being able to see all the things that you're showing right now, Isaac.
Yeah, it is very important, and it's something that everyone should really get familiar with. So here, we found one where people have left comments relating to transaction. So some people will do that for whatever reason, and so it's just something that you should just be aware of. So yeah, have a play around with it. We'll put links in the chat so you can check out the block scan. Yeah, that was it for me, John.
Good. Okay. So really good. I think definitely if you're not as familiar with some of the things that Isaac just shared, you should definitely take a look at that, understand, you know, how you can track different things in the blockchain, your transactions, if some wallet or somebody's trying to connect to you, what is it that they, you know, what have they been doing? How do you protect your assets? Because just like banks get hacked a lot, and banks do get hacked a lot, their websites and different things. It also happens on the blockchain. So you need to be able to protect yourself and know what's going on. Good to use a VPN and some other things like that as well to protect your computer. So now we're going to just go into kind of a Q&A segment. We talked about a lot. We talked about the Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and the bank failures and bailouts of central bank digital currencies. We talked about after FTX, how we're getting all this regulation, how it seems like a lot of the innovation is going offshore. And it's not, you know, so much in the United States because of the regulation situation that's going on in the US right now. And then we also saw some projects from Azuka, from Isaac, that are happening in Africa and the UK, around the world, with the diaspora connected to the projects in one way or another. So if there's any questions anybody has, if you want to know more about what's happening at Silvergate or Silicon Valley Bank, or why the price of Bitcoin is up, or the security we talked about, now we're going to just open the floor up for any questions. You can type them, you can raise your hand and put them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and just talk about any questions anybody might have on anything that we've covered or any other topic for Africa, African diaspora, for crypto, blockchain. So let me just open that up now. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Malik. I have a question.
Yes, Malik, go ahead.
Okay, we've seen SVB go down, Silvergate, and all these, you know, major banks that support crypto. What's your view on where crypto is heading with these traditional banks actually collapsing?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, crypto, and I'll let Isaac and Azuka give their perspectives on this. My take is that crypto is here to stay, especially Bitcoin. I don't think it's going anywhere. If you look at some of the headlines, like the Bank of International Settlements, which is a central bank for all central banks, they have told their member banks to hold 1% of their assets in Bitcoin, right? So this is a very, this is an asset that's not going to go anywhere. As long as we have the internet, as long as we have electricity, Bitcoin is going to be around, right? So I can't say that for every single altcoin. Some altcoin projects are going to survive. Some altcoin projects are not going to survive. Traditional banks are trying to figure out how they play in this space, right? Because they've had the lock on finances for the last 100 years plus, probably. They've basically run all of the financial system for the Western financial system, which has pretty much been the world's financial system. So now with Finance 2.0 coming in with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, blockchain. They're trying to figure out, well, what is our place? How do we get control of this? How do we play? But is Bitcoin going to be around? Absolutely, I believe it's going to be around. I mean, even by the price right now, you see all the bank failures, the bank stocks going down, and Bitcoin went up 15-20% over the last day or two, right? So I think that we are going to see Bitcoin around for the long term. We're going to probably see some of the altcoins around for the longer term, maybe Ethereum, maybe some other ones. Obviously, some are going to go away. If you remember, not everybody may be old enough to remember, but we had a dot-com boom. And that dot-com boom, there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these dot-com companies, brooms.com, pets.com, this.com, that.com. And most of those, 95% of them went away. They're gone, right? You can't find them anymore. But the whatever 1 to 5% that stuck around, those are the biggest companies in the world today. The Facebook, the Amazon, the Google, even in China, you had your Baidu and things like that as well. All of those are the biggest things that are out now. And I think the same thing is going to happen with the cryptocurrency space. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin will be around, probably Ethereum and a couple others. A lot of other projects may not make it, but there will be some that will make it and will do really well, right? So you see people are kind of jockeying for position. Some of them are working with government. Some of them are working with other institutions. They're all trying to figure out what is their position, what is their place going to be. So Isaac or Azuka, do you have other comments on this question?
Yeah, for me, I think it was something that you said in one of the earlier meetups that you've done, and even on your channel that you've promoted as well, is that regardless of crypto, what's going to happen, the blockchain is not going to go anywhere, and we know the strength of the blockchain and how it's helped a lot of businesses streamline, save money, do things a lot more efficiently. So yeah, if all cryptocurrencies were going to
Oh, looks like it froze again.
So you can still hear me?
Yeah, it stopped for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so which is the fundamental that we have the blockchain. So building on a blockchain, building businesses, building applications, what we have, and that is not going to go anywhere. As long as we have the blockchain, then it's for me, it's neither here nor there. It's just a case of how we utilize it going forward.
Azuka, you have thoughts on this question?
Yeah, the little I would add to it is that you see the government, they don't want, first of all, blockchain isn't going anywhere because the blockchain is open source. And that's the reason why the government are fighting it so hard. And they are also fighting the projects that are also private, like the privacy tokens as well. But their establishments, their banking system is private. They don't want us to see what they're doing, but they want to see everything we're doing, and at the same time still attack us because it's also going to put them out of business. But it doesn't matter what they do, the blockchain is still going to be there. The blockchain is not just all about finance, though that's what's the biggest part that is driving it right now. But with blockchain, you could do a lot with it. You could use it for land registry, you could use it for plethora of stuff. But right now, it's just the financial part of it that is piloting it. And I know in the near future, when they keep attacking it, people are going to probably move out of that financial part of it and try to create more value in other aspects. And if you also look at the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain as well, they've also tried to make it and program it. Right now, we can't program the Bitcoin blockchain, whereby they program the NFT. Is it the CryptoPunk that they programmed into the Bitcoin blockchain? And recently, I read an article about roll-up kit zero, what they call it, roll-up kits. They're trying to make this thing available because now the sects are also saying Ethereum will be classified as security. And if that happens, it's also just going to push people more to go in that terms of trying to discover the Bitcoin blockchain more to make things easier for people to program on it. And things are also going to go on. Nothing is going to stop. They can't stop it, but they're just going to delay the process. And that's what I see.
Yeah, you make a good point there. Bitcoin, now they have ordinals, which is basically the Bitcoin NFTs. That actually pushed up the price of Bitcoin quite a bit about a month ago. So now you can have NFTs basically on the Bitcoin blockchain using
Right.
ordinals, which is a powerful use case as well. Certainly because Bitcoin is the most stable and the oldest of all the blockchains. And the other thing I was going to mention is the CBDCs. So I'm not a big fan, but we know those are coming. And CBDCs are also using blockchains as well. Obviously, they're government blockchains. And so you're going to see those blockchain projects as well. So there's going to be a competition between open blockchain like the Bitcoin and then the CBDC and the government blockchains. Obviously, I think for Africa and diaspora that the open blockchains are a better situation. But both of those are going to be there. So Malik, does that answer your question? Do you have more on your question?
Thank you very much. That answers it beautifully. And maybe a follow-up question, since you've mentioned digital dollar. I think I just wanted to understand how CBDCs would fit into the crypto ecosystem, because we're seeing some stable coins being disrupted, like BUSD and Circle. So how will CBDCs fit into the crypto ecosystem? Thank you.
So I'll touch on that one again. The CBDCs, like we said, I mean, Bitcoin, as they say, they call it the people's money, right? It doesn't matter if you're in Zimbabwe. It doesn't matter if you're in El Salvador. It doesn't matter if you're in the Philippines. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in a combat zone, Ukraine, Russia, UK, Germany, it doesn't matter. You are able to use Bitcoin. Anyone can set it up. Anyone can transact on it. It is the people's money. It is open. Anybody can access it. The CBDC is the opposite, right? It is really the extension of our current system, which is if you are not within the borders of the UK or the US or Mexico or Australia, or they don't allow you to use it, they can basically restrict and say, you know what, you cannot use our CBDC. They could even restrict it to say there are certain transaction types. You know, you bought seashells and we don't like people buying seashells. They could stop you from transacting for that reason. We actually see that already in China with the EU yuan. If there are certain behaviors that they like from a China government perspective, then they can, they can give you perks and benefits using their online currency. And if they don't like behaviors, or they don't like things you've said, they can prevent you from transacting, right? So the CBDC is going to really be the ultimate, and you can look at the example really of what's happening in China to know what it's going to look like when at whatever point it rolls out in other parts of the world. I am not particularly excited about that myself, but let me open that up for other comments and thoughts.
Yeah, I think the CBDC is just all about control. That's all they want it for, is to limit people more and also to bring in the climate change instead of CBDC adding to the 15-minute city they're trying to propose everywhere in the UK, and going out of your 15-minute city or lockdown zone, the money doesn't work, or maybe you can't buy gas out of your 15-minute city where you're supposed to be. It's just control, or it's centered around control, and it could limit you. Like they said, it is programmable. So every transaction you make, they could see it. They could program it and say, oh, because of climate change, you're not allowed to buy this amount of meat in a month. And if you do, they stop you. You can't buy meat anymore for the rest of the month or whatnot. So that's just what they're trying to do.
I wouldn't say I'm totally against CBDCs. I think they do have a role to play in this space. And
your video, I think
I think that only,
if you stop your video, maybe it'll be easier to hear.
sure. Is that any better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I'm not totally against CBDCs. For me, I feel like anything, there's a role to play, and there's still to get more people on board. We do need centralized government involved in some capacity, because some people won't get involved in it because they feel that they have not got the government, and there's still a lot of people that do trust governments and what they offer. The only thing that kind of really puts me off is what's been happening in China with their control of their digital yen, and that if that is to be implemented globally, then obviously that is a real concern. But I feel there's so many options for us on how we can transact with other currencies to buy goods and services and peer-to-peer transactions, that there's always going to be a way around not even having to get involved or use any CBDCs, essentially. So yeah, but for me, I'm not really too fussed about the whole CBDCs, because I think with cash money in the bank now, there's still an element of control. We still have to answer 101 questions to do a transaction, to apply for a loan, to get anything done, really. So it's for me, it's not any different. We've got the controls there with our passports, with general information. Yeah, unless you're trying to do something unethical and you want to really hide something, then yes, there should be an element of fear. But obviously, there's some people who just don't want to have the government involved in all of their affairs, and I'll feel the same. As long as they can stay out of their affairs and not really get involved, then yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's a big discussion and debate around this, right? Because how much control is too much control? That's a good question, right? You know, what are people comfortable with? You know, how much are you, obviously we have passports today. Obviously, if you want to take a big sum of money out of the bank, you have to explain it, right? That's not true with Bitcoin. Obviously, you can send Bitcoin wherever you want. That's very different. Cash is also, that's the case, right? So if you actually have cash in your pocket, most places in the world, you can go and you can use the cash and nobody's going to be able to say anything about it, right? So what level of control are people okay with? That's a good question, right? The level in China where, you know, if you posted the wrong thought on social media, they could disable your money. I don't know. I mean, if that's something you're comfortable with, then okay. If you're not comfortable with that, then obviously, you know, you may want to look at engaging, you know, where you're located. You know, is there another approach that's going to be better for your locality? I think for Africa diaspora in general, we need to think about that as a conversation too. You know, we've really been left out of the financial system for the most part in Africa, definitely, even in the Caribbean, in a lot of areas, Latin America, and even in America, in the US, we have what's called redlining. There's a lot of financial transactions that many African Americans to this day are not able to do. I think that there are very few, if any, Black, as you'd call it in America, owned banks at all, right? So that whole idea of, you know, how much control is too much control, that's a big open question. I think that, you know, reasonable people can debate.
I had a question actually that I wanted to put out to the audience, which was around what do people really want to get from this whole crypto space? What do the diaspora need? What areas should we really be focusing on? I know we share a lot of information in the group. Is there any specific areas that we should be focusing on? Is there any direction that we should be all working collectively towards, to put ourselves on an even playing field, or to just generally uplift ourselves? So if there's any specific areas that people think that we should be honing in on, then it'll be good to hear opinions or just a general thought on what people think is important to them specifically at this moment. Because yes, we're going through a very troubled times with employment, with high cost of living. People are probably not making as much as they probably want to be. Crypto space is very, very volatile. It's not as sustainable and stable as it was before, but there's still plenty of opportunities. So it'd be here to hear other people to share views on direction and opportunities or collective things that we can get involved in together.
So I definitely have some perspectives on that, and then I'll open it up for others as well. I mean, the real big thing for me, and for those of you who followed or been in the group, the Wakanda meetups for the last several years, you know, for me, is financial inclusion. I feel that whether you're African diaspora, African American, African UK or Europe, we are in many ways left out as a group of a lot of finance, right? It's much harder to get loans. It's much harder to get financing. I've been doing financing for my startup business, and it's very difficult for many businesses, but definitely for African and African diaspora owned. Like even in Kenya, one of the statistics I believe, I don't know if I have one of my team members from Kenya on, is that in Kenya, there's a lot of startups in technology, but there are very few that get funding that actually have African owners only. Usually it's a Western owner that will get funding, but if you don't have a Western owner on the team, it becomes very difficult to get funding, and that's Kenya, which is Africa, right? So I think the financial inclusion is a very important aspect to me of the blockchain. The fact that I can send a transaction to Zimbabwe, or I don't send it to Zimbabwe, but if somebody wanted to do that, or if you want to send a transaction to Ghana or Ivory Coast or whatever it is, you can do that. And I think going back to your point, Isaac, I don't think that it's only illicit reasons people want to use the blockchain that way. I mean, if I want to send money to my family in Nigeria, or receive, I've had to do that. Bitcoin was about the only way I could do it quickly and easily. Like I had a health problem for my father and the family. I couldn't get the funds any other way that I needed to, except for Bitcoin. I also work with my team across Africa. I'm able to use blockchain for that. So I think that there's a lot of very important financial inclusion reasons for us as African diaspora that we should be looking at this pretty seriously. I'll open it for anybody else who has thoughts as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what you said, like getting funding, being a Black professional or Black creator, like it's very difficult. Like the project we're working on, the iTunes, our CEO is a Black American and he's in the US. Like he's finding it very, very difficult to raise funds or to get loan for the project. That's going to be a cutting edge project in the near future, but it's difficult for anyone to even say, oh, okay, let's give you 100K loan. Or with the blockchain and with the help of some other people, we've been able to do that privately instead of now looking at getting loans from banks and all that. So I'll say one of the benefits and what I'm looking to do with the blockchain is to provide more opportunities for Africans all over the world, be it Black African Americans, like build a business whereby everyone can easily partake in and provide jobs and just give people a source of inclusion. That's why I'm also in the space, and that's my passion for it.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Other thoughts about why people want to use blockchain, why people are interested in it in this group in the meetup here? So I think that that's a major one, is the financial inclusion, right? Just making sure that everybody in African diaspora, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're wherever you are in the UK and Latin America and the US, that you are able to transact, to have a marketplace, to be able to sell your goods and services, to be able to take advantage of that, to be able to get funding for your business, to just do stuff to feed your family. I think that's really important. And that to me is one of the key reasons that you see me spend so much time in this space. We don't know how it's going to evolve in the West. We don't know who's going to win out and what's going to happen. But my general take is the more open it is, the more Bitcoin type, open, the better. I think the more, closed, it is, and not so good for the African diaspora in general. Or even maybe we come up with some of our own projects. I mean, we have some like Odua that they talk a lot about what they're doing. I think ADDI did some projects as well. So maybe we have some of our own projects that are going to maybe provide across the diaspora. I think Sango Coin in Central African Republic. So there are going to be probably some other projects as well that will maybe come out of diaspora that will do that. My own company does financing for different startup, small, agriculture, agribusiness different things like that as well, factories, textiles. So maybe we'll be coming up with more of our own projects too.
And I think that's what's important, is that we start to just do our own thing, use a little bit more group economics, a more collective thinking on, right, someone's got an amazing idea or an amazing project, and right, let's all come together and build this one together, because we all benefit from it. And that's because trying to jump onto other projects, other protocols, we're just doing the same thing that we've always been doing. We're just giving away our money to receive little back. And now it's just a case of like, we've got all the tools are there, all the resources are there. It's just a case of just having a collective mind.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts or other questions?
Hello. Just wanted to say, how can we really increase the use case of crypto, right? For example, I'm from the Gambia, and let's say you want to pay these electricity bills and other bills, and using the traditional financial system can be pretty pricey, right? Because of their fees. Now, I've been looking at Binance and all these exchanges. So if you're a merchant, let's say I want to sell certain goods and services in that country, how do we actually make that happen, right? Where people can just maybe come to my page, use crypto, and then buy certain services. How can we integrate into that system? Because I'm just thinking out loud, how do we actually increase the use case of cryptocurrencies? I think that will actually increase adoption, especially in Africa.
So I mean, at base, right, the simplest thing is just to provide crypto payment functionality, basically wallet address, the ability for people to pay you in crypto. You need to make sure that they get a receipt, they get, confirmation of their payment, even though that is on the blockchain as well. So that's the most simple thing that you can do. One of the things that we've been doing, we have several platforms that we're working on right now. One of our platforms is called Malala, which allows for a DAO, decentralized autonomous. And that,
you better have a perfect part.
hold on a second. Thank you. Mute that line. All right. So the Malala is a project that we have that we're working on, my company, Oxford on Blockchain, to allow basically for projects to get funding using tokens, basically using a totally decentralized platform. We also have another one we've been working with called ScanPay, which allows for using wallets and being able to send from Western transaction financial system to basically crypto wallets and African projects as well. And then, like I said, but the most basic way to do it would really just be to enable crypto payment address. You could do it on Binance. You could do it in another wallet, like an Exodus wallet. Make it available. Just make sure you get receipts to people for their payments and confirm it. And then if you want to be a little more sophisticated, you could use a smart contract, like an Ethereum smart contract that allows people to, okay, they made the payment, and then they get, confirmation of that payment, whether it's for utility or whatever. Some of that would have to be through like a utility company if it's your utilities, your government locally, but those are some options. So Malika,
Thank you.
Oh, there's other thoughts on that. I mean, there's a million different ways that you can integrate using it. It's kind of like as many different ways as you could use $1 if I just gave you $1, right? There's so many different ways you could use it. You could put it online, you could put it in a debit card, you could pay with a Visa, you could hand it to somebody on the corner to buy a drink. I mean, you could do a lot of things with that $1 or that $9 or whatever it is. And the possibilities are endless. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, we'll see, were you saying something? No, it just came off mute accidentally. Okay, so I think Malik, there's so many possibilities. Really, your creativity is the only limitation on how many different ways you could do that. But the simplest is really just to integrate a wallet, either like your own wallet, which I prefer, the self-custody wallet, because as they say, not your keys, not your crypto. Or if you don't use your own wallet, you could use like a Binance wallet or something like that as well, exchange wallet. Malik, does that answer the question you were asking?
Yes, it does. It does. Because just showing wallet address, I think makes sense. But for those that are new to crypto, right? I was just thinking, how can you integrate traditional finance with crypto? Maybe where people can just pay, maybe with their card if they want to buy crypto. Because sometimes in certain markets you get certain restrictions, so it's very difficult integrating with the traditional financial system, right? So I was just thinking out loud, how can there be a bridge where those who are new to crypto can easily access or transact on the blockchain?
So one of the things that we do, and we actually partner with one of the platforms that we partner with is called ScanPay. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. And ScanPay, basically, it's an American regulated platform, right, that connects to American US banks. But what we do is we integrate that in Africa, and we're working on that now to be able to connect to different crypto payment wallets for different projects. So you'll see, let me see if I can also show it. I think we have it on our website here. Give me a second. That we have that ScanPay. So that's our solution basically for Western financial, because like you said, there's more regulation in the Western financial system. We use that solution. Let's see if we can pull that up. Give me a moment. There we go. Blockchain services. Here we go. Okay, let me share my screen again. So this is one of the ways that we are working on currently, and this is one of the things that we're working on funding is our continual working right now with Tanzania. We've been doing some stuff with Ghana with our ScanPay platform, right? And so we are doing that to basically do Western transactions that can be fully regulated going into Africa, going into different countries. Of course, that's not on right now, unfortunately. But anyway, we are able to do that. Let me get that link fixed, so that you can use the that ScanPay platform. And then there are others, like we said, the Malala platform that we've been working on, which is a decentralized completely. And the Malala platform is going to allow you to be able to, just that's really outside of the United States, because it's not using banking rules from America. And there's going to be a lot of other solutions coming up that other people are going to work on as well. Like I said, Odua, I know they advertise a lot. What they're doing in our group as well. There's quite a few other projects. Isaac, I think you're looking at finding a way for, approved in Rwanda to be able to accept funds and things like that into your projects you're working on there, as we've kind of even working on other ones as well. So if anybody wants to share one, please do. But there are a lot of different options there. Are you, Malik, in the Telegram group, by the way?
No, I'm not.
Okay, you should definitely join that. I'm going to give you a link because we discuss this a lot in the group, and this is something you should definitely join us because we have ongoing discussion every single day. I'm going to put that Telegram link in the chat right now. Okay, so you should definitely join that discussion group because we talk about these types of solutions every day there. Okay, so definitely sign up and join that one. As we like to talk more than just these kind of like once every few times a year meetings. We want to talk about this ongoing because a lot of ideas come up. Okay. Other thoughts on that point?
Sorry, just to touch base with Malik. Malik, are you in the Gambia group? Did you receive the invite?
Yes. I'm in the Gambia group. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, because one of the areas as well that while I was in Gambia is also looking at the educating people, because what I found with Gambia, there's the mobile technology take up is a lot slower in comparison to some of the other neighboring. If we just look at Senegal, obviously Senegal is a lot larger than Gambia, but where Gambia is still in the it's still quite slow in using mobile technology and mobile payments and everything else. It's a perfect time for you to get into that space to start educating people in and around and how they can do more obviously, we've done a few peer-to-peer transactions in the group, and it's just more the case of spreading the word and utilizing different ways. And you could probably be one of the people that could lead the push for people going into crypto and the different ways of how they can start transacting. Yes, we've done a few small transactions for some household goods and stuff like that, but it's a very new market there. And I think personally for yourself, it's a very good opportunity for you to possibly to see if you can lead with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When Binance started supporting some of these West African currencies, that's the Sierra Leone leones, the Gambian dalasi, and the Mauritanian currency, right? So we've seen, I've been on Binance just monitoring how people start adopting Bitcoin. And to my surprise, a lot of people have started doing P2P. And if you remember, the Gambia is a tourist destination area, and it's also dependent on remittances. So you have most of these family members in the diaspora, and they normally send remittances back home. I see a lot of people trying to explore crypto because it's cheaper, number one, for the relatives abroad to send in money. And it's also beneficial for those receiving the money because you get to dictate perhaps certain level of the exchange rate compared to maybe some money transfer operators, which would normally put some ridiculous rates, and beneficiaries tend to lose out. So I see that coming up because I know by the time a lot of people explore the remittance aspect of crypto, they'll love it. And I foresee that adoption would actually increase, given that now we have a platform where people can actually trade their crypto, which is Binance P2P.
Exactly that.
B2B a lot, Malik?
Say that again, please.
Have you been using Binance? Is it, I guess, a P2P, B2B? Have you been using it?
Yes. I've been using Binance. I've actually registered as a merchant. So I've been doing a lot of P2P transactions.
Yeah, Binance has been growing rapidly all around the world. So they're a very big solution for a lot of people. Sorry, Isaac, were you saying something?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions, other comments? Probably go for about another 10 minutes or so before we round out for this meetup. Any other comments or questions on this topic? I would say, Malik, that the Binance is a great platform. I use it as well, work with my team using it. But I would recommend also having your own self-custody wallet that, if you're going to be storing crypto for the long term, that you have your own, whether it's a hardware or software wallet, because you don't want to only depend on Binance. You should have another wallet that's your own wallet with your own keys. But Binance is a great solution, and they've really been expanding the crypto space all around the world.
Agreed. What's your thought on this sub wallets like Trust Wallet and MetaMask?
Trust Wallet I like that. I like Exodus Wallet. MetaMask is good for connecting to DeFi, but as Isaac was talking about, it's such a popular wallet that a lot of hackers have been targeting it. So I think you have to be very careful with the MetaMask wallet, just because anytime you connect it in your browser, connected to a website, you're potentially opening yourself to a hacker accessing your wallet. So you be careful. I also like the hardware wallets like Trezor and what's the other one? Ledger. Those wallets are very good because nobody can access them at all unless they actually have the physical wallet. So if you have coins that you're storing for a long period of time, I would recommend either doing a, like the Exodus or the Trust Wallet or something like that, a software wallet, or even more secure would be like a Ledger or a Trezor or one of those, which is like a hardware wallet. That's really the best way to keep your crypto safe. If you're doing exchange, you're doing transactions, that's fine to keep it on exchange like Binance or Coinbase in the US or Gemini or something like that. But I would not leave crypto long-term on those exchanges. All right. Any other questions, comments, points before we wrap up for the day? Great meetup, and please do join the Telegram group there in the chat. If you haven't already signed up, do join for that so you can keep discussing, keep talking with us. We talk about these topics every day. We give the latest headlines, the latest news, things that are going on. We are constantly talking through this because this is an ongoing discussion that I think African diaspora, African Americans, we all need to be having. We need to keep talking to each other, not only, in these periodic meetups we have for live meetups, but every day. Just join the Telegram group, share things that you see happening. That's how we stay on top of this, and that's hopefully we build the future that we want for Africa, for diaspora, is by us continuing to have that conversation constantly beyond, just what we're doing today. So please do join that. Any other thoughts or comments before we wrap up? Questions? Great. Well, I think this has really been a really good meetup. I want to thank Isaac again and Azuka helping to present and share some perspectives. We should have some more sessions coming up here in the next quarter. And we're looking forward to, if you have topics, presenters, things you want to talk about, you think are relevant for Africa, African diaspora, US, whatever it is, African American, just make sure to drop that in the chat, message me, join the meetup group as well on the meetup website. I think everybody should have that link, but if you don't have that, I'm going to put that really briefly into the chat as well so that everybody does have that. Let me grab the meetup here link. I'm going to put that into the chat for you guys as well. So if you have not joined the meetup on meetup.com, you should definitely do that as well. Let me just share my screen. I think most people know what that looks like already, but do join us so that you keep updated and you see the latest things we're talking about, right? We want to keep communicating and keep talking. It's a rapidly changing landscape. It's a rapidly changing space, and we really want to keep on top of it. So Africa and diaspora don't get left behind. We don't end up being, kind of the tail on this one, but maybe might even be the head on it. So I think there's a lot of great opportunity in this space for Africa, for African diaspora. We got to need to keep talking. That's the purpose of our Wakanda meetups. That is the purpose of our discussions, and we are open to have different speakers. Anybody who wants to come and join us, just message, let us know. We really want to see this keep on moving forward for the community. So I think that's all we've got. If there aren't more comments, I want to thank everybody. Special thanks to Isaac. Thanks to Azuka, as well as the rest of our team. My team also has joined, and thanks to everybody, it's family, everybody joining, and everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.